So the idea of today is to discuss the potentials and the challenges for triggering transformative change in our arenas for transformation. And the agenda for today, we are going to just make a brief introduction to the BioValue and the webinar series that we are being promoting, the Impact Dialogues, and then we will share a bit the methodological approach that we adopted in the arenas and with the arenas for transformation. We intend to do some discussions and then wrap-ups and conclusions. And to introduce you the project BioValue and the webinar series, I pass the word to my colleague, Maria Partidário. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, and hello, everybody. Welcome to our fifth webinar of in the webinar series Impact Dialogues. My name is Maria Partidário. I'm the coordinator of BioValue. I believe that some of you might be new to this webinar series, even though others have attended previous webinars, but I will nevertheless introduce the project just very briefly. Margarida, can I have? Yeah, thank you. So this, the BioValue is Horizon European Research Project, which aims at safeguarding and increasing biodiversity through transformative change in spatial policy making, planning practices, and infrastructure development. This means that we work, of course, looking into biodiversity value increase, but in spatial planning. So what we aim to do is to help the work of spatial planners at European level to forward the future planning, future spatial planning in increasing the value associated to biodiversity. And to do that, the BioValue project is looking into a three-instrumental approach. That means that we have selected three main instruments: spatial planning instruments, environmental assessment instruments, and economic and financial instruments to enable this enhancement of biodiversity value in spatial planning. And so what we're trying to do, and here the arenas, and this webinar is particularly relevant because of that, because the arenas are the experimental dimension through which we are testing how these different instruments can by themselves contribute to this enhancement, but also by collaborating across the different instruments to enable a more integrated approach in this enhancement of the value of biodiversity. The arenas that we will be working with today, and that are the arenas of BioValue, are present in three of the partner countries. One is Portugal with Mafra municipality. The other one is Germany with the MECPOM rewetting peatlands approach or project. And the other one is in Italy, in Trento, looking into the regeneration of the Fersina River, an urban river that is moving towards increasing the biodiversity across the various parts of the river. And therefore, each of the arenas have a different challenge, and they have been adopting or incorporating the different instruments in different ways. And that's exactly what we're going to be looking at today, to upscale the biodiversity value in each case. So the project is the collaboration of different partners in four main countries: Italy, Portugal, Germany, and Denmark, right? That's all. I always get a bit confused because of the various partners. So we have the academic partners that involve the University of Lisbon with IST, the University of Trento, the Aalborg University in Denmark, and UFZ Center in Germany. Then we have the practice or arena partners with the Community Trento, Município de Mafra, and the Co-Now Consulting that works mainly with the MacPom arena. And then we have Icons as our dissemination communication partner. So altogether, these are the partners that have been pushing for this project for almost 3 years now. And I think at this point, well, yeah, also just very briefly, this webinar series has had already four webinars, of which the first was more connected with the spatial planning instruments back in March, looking into how spatial planning instruments have the potential to generate transformation in spatial planning for more biodiversity inclusive spatial planning. Then we had in April the second webinar looking into environmental assessment instruments with a key question of how we are integrating biodiversity in environmental assessments and particularly increasing the value of biodiversity through environmental assessment. The third looked into economic and financial instruments, more recently in September, exploring economic instruments in spatial planning for enhancing biodiversity value. And last month, in November, we had a fourth webinar that looked into a more integrative approach towards transformative change by bringing the contributions from the three instrumental perspectives. So today, our fifth webinar, which is actually is still part of work package 4, but it's a webinar 5th looking into the arenas for transformation. So webinar 4 was already about work package 4, which is about the integrative approach towards transformative change in spatial planning. And now we look into the arenas where action is taking place at the moment. And I think at this point, I pass on to Margarida again. Thank you.
Thank you. And to very quickly to share with you the methodological approach that we adopted to work with and within the arenas for transformation, just because we want to use this time to discuss the arenas. So I will take very short time on this part. What is the arenas? The concept of the arenas that we are adopting. We are adopting it as experimental areas, places with where the action happened and where there's an expression, a territorial expression of the capacity of our instrumental perspectives, as Maria mentioned before, spatial planning and management instruments, environmental assessment instruments, and economic and financial instruments. And the capacity for what? To create this transformative change for valuing biodiversity. This expression, we analyze it and we experiment the instruments in the isolation, instrument by instrument, to understand what's their level to support this transformation process that we are aiming at, but, and more relevant, this integration within the spatial planning process that frame the cases, the works that the arenas are doing. And just a brief contextual information, because we are working with a transformative change framework that is supporting us also to incorporate within the work of the arenas this notion of transformative change. And one of the aspects that the framework provides to the arenas are ambitions for how spatial planning can value biodiversity, and ambitions towards developing and framing their transition process. And those arenas, as I mentioned, they are guiding ambitions, sorry. So they contribute to the transition process, to trigger the transition process, and to leave some seeds for these within the spatial planning process, but also has an assessment role in a way to understand the magnitude through which each of the arena spatial planning systems can contribute to enhance biodiversity and value biodiversity. So we are working with these three ambitions. I'm not going through each of them, but just for you to know that the arenas recognize them and incorporate the ambitions in their own processes of change that they are doing. And because this is a research and innovation project, and we needed a way to combine a very practical work within the arenas, also with these more theoretical advances that we are doing. So this hybrid working, for that, we developed a methodological framework, an approach that goes with the arenas together with the theoretical partners to go through this process of first to understand the problem. What is the problem that the arenas have in terms of their spatial policy and planning challenge to value biodiversity? Is it possible or not? What are the constraints that we have? What are the priorities that are in place? Also with the arenas and all of this work, let me say, I didn't mention in the beginning, but all of this work is a co-creation work with local stakeholders, but the arenas will share with you their experience on that. So then we go with them to explore the vision. What is the expectations? What is the desired future that they want for their spatial planning process to value biodiversity? With that, it is possible, together with the local stakeholders, to set an agenda that will support the acceleration of change, the needed change and the intended change. After we need to activate the process of change. How can we do it? So it's through connection, it's through collaborative processes that would challenge the status quo that exists and will help us to create some critical mass for the transformation that is intended to happen in the arenas. But we need to reflect. We need to understand what's happening. We need to understand what we had, and we need to understand what we're going. And that will lead a space of learning and reflection to understand if the challenge and the expectations are being met and are being considered in the arena's transition process. But in the end, our intention is to scale up and scale out the experiences, the positive examples that we work. So we want to impact the arenas in terms of their spatial policy and planning multi-level system through communication to develop this sense of community building within their own context. Because of that, just to give the first hint, the arenas, together with local stakeholders, they developed some expectations. This was like the starting point, the first thing that we work with them. Where do they want it to get? What is the problem? What is what they want to explore? And this in collaborative discussions and activities we had with local stakeholders, each arena stated their own desired future. And that desired future was then incorporated in a process where we had several activities with them to understand what is biodiversity in each of the in each of the contexts. Each context had their own understandings of biodiversity. What are the values that exists there? What is their transformation dynamics? And what is their own spatial planning ambitions? Because we have theoretical ambitions, but those ambitions can be translated into their own contexts. And we explore also with them as a proxy to think on biodiversity, this example of ecosystem services And we also explore with them the integration, the instrumental integration in the spatial planning process. And these were activities directly promoted by BioValue, but the arenas, they had their own self-work. So they had autonomous and they took ownership of this transition process, and they promoted a series of local events with local stakeholders besides the ones that we promoted within the project specifically. And very quickly, this is what the basis of work of the arenas. I don't want to enter in each specific arena because they will make their own presentations. For now, I just want to ask if there's any question on what we presented so far. If not, okay, thank you. Let me pass now to the main purpose of us being here today is to discuss the arena's work. So what are we going to do? And now I need your attention on this, please, to support us on managing the discussions. So we will have 3 breakout rooms. Each arena will discuss their cases, their work, will discuss their results, their challenges in one breakout room. So, but this is important. Each breakout room will work in local languages. So room 1 that will be discussing the Fersina River case arena will work in Italian. Room 2 that will discuss the spatial planning processes in Mafra will run in Portuguese, and room 3 that will discuss Mecklenburg-Vorpommern case will work in English. So what we want now is if you could indicate us which arena you want to discuss, knowing firsthand that there'll be these local language specifications in each of the rooms. So I will ask you in the next minute to rename yourself by adding Fersina, Mafra, or MacPom to help us to distribute yourselves throughout the breakout rooms. And how can you do that? If you go to the, but if you go to the participants and you go to your name and you can just rename and add in front of your name Fersina, if you want to join the discussion in Italian about the Fersina River Arena. You add Mafra if you want to discuss in Portuguese the spatial planning process of Mafra, or you put MacPom if you want to discuss in English the case of MacPom in Germany. So I will just ask you to do that in the next minute, all of you, if possible, for us very easily and quickly to distribute from the through the breakout rooms, please. I will just give you 1 minute. And those that will not add nothing, let's assume we will add you to the MacPom case. So please, because it's in English, please do that. Thank you. Let me just see quickly how